revitalization of a particular neighborhood, and of course, near and dear to all the hearts of economic developers is job creation. So they generally come in the form of tax credits, grants, loans, and we have some equity programs as well that I'll be touching upon. So if we can go to, yes, so we have tax credits for job creation at the county level. So if you are a company that is taking 5,000 square feet of new space that's not been occupied before, and within a 2-year period you're planning to create 25 jobs or more, get in touch with us. We want to talk to you about the new jobs tax credit. This is a tax credit to your real and personal property for the company. You'll see in red I've noted that there's a state income component to it as well, so you can also get some credits towards your state income tax. And that can be up to $1,500 per employee. For larger spaces, larger employees, we have an enhanced tax credit. So if you think this applies to you, let us know. The next slide, please, is we'll talk a little bit about our tech sectors. So we have programs specifically for the green technology community. We have a green investment incentive, and this is a grant. It's just a sum of money that we give to companies who are investors who have invested up to $50,000 into a company. We're trying to promote and spur and grow our green investment economy. If you are interested in a green building, you can get some significant property tax credits, especially if you have a highly certified LEED building. Brownfields are about environmental remediation. That can also be some very nice property tax credits for you. If anybody is interested in environmental remediation, please give us a call. Our next sector that we focus on is our biotech in our life sciences sector. The county has just completed a life science impact grant program. We granted $185,000. We divvied that up amongst 8 companies, and they're all project and milestone based, and it's just a flat-out grant to help our companies achieve their next milestone. This is equivalent to non-dilutive seed funding for our life science community. The county also has a biotech investment incentive. The state has one, and I have details on that later on if that applies to any of you. So the state has a tax credit, and then the county piggybacks off of that automatically. So that really, again, helps encourage and spur and create capital investment in our life science community. Another industry we're focusing on is our cybersecurity industry. This is a very hot and growing industry in the county and the state. The state has a cybersecurity investment fund, which I have some information about. Here I'm talking again about an investment incentive. So this is again a grant that we give to investors who make an equity investment in a local cybersecurity company. There is a state tax credit program to this as well, and we piggyback off of that. So we have also some incentives that are specifically real estate based. Our current program, thank you, is called the MOVE program, and this is helping us to reduce office space vacancy in the county. It's an attraction program, so we're looking for companies who have never had a commercial lease before in Montgomery County. So it could be a new company coming from out of the area. It could be somebody going from a home-based business up to 10,000 square feet. And if you sign a 3-year lease, we're going to give you a check for $8 per square foot. So it's $8 per square foot for 1 year, and you just get a lump sum check, and it really helps defray your costs for your first year of operations. So we call this our MOVE program, and we've been doing it now for, I guess, about 6 months, and we've probably issued about 12 checks for MOVE applications. So far it's been a very good program for us. We also have enterprise zones in the county, and there are some around the state. And this is another one of those piggyback programs. So if you have a company that's located in an enterprise zone, you get additional property tax credits, and at the state level you also get some employment tax credits and sales tax credits. We have some generic funding programs that we use for, next slide please. some, thank you. We have some generic funding programs that we use to fill in for opportunities that don't exactly fall into those buckets that I've described earlier. So we have what's called our Economic Development Fund. And this is a fund we've used many times over the years. Typically, the transactions are $5,000 to $100,000. These funds are doled out as a grant, and they can convert to a loan under certain provisions, or they can always stay a grant and they're never paid back. This is general funds that we use on a case-by-case basis when we are trying to attract or retain a company in the county that is growing, that is creating well-paying jobs, that is making an economic contribution to the county. We want to encourage them, we want to help them, and we want those companies to be successful here in the county. So the Economic Development Fund we use on a case-by-case basis for opportunities that we find. Our Small Business Revolving Loan Fund is really exactly that. It's a loan fund that we use to give loans to a small business between $5,000 and $100,000. The business needs to have less than 75 employees, less than $5 million in revenue, and we really structure it very much like a bank loan. So there's collateral, there's personal guarantees. We look at the cash flow and business plan of the entity, and we're evaluating the credit risk. What makes this different from a bank loan is that we may be willing to put money into a project that helps us meet one of our economic development goals, and there's a bit of a gap in financing of the project. So this is where this particular loan fund comes into play. So we've used this over the years to help companies that are expanding in a community that we're redeveloping, like maybe Wheaton, and a loan is really the most appropriate vehicle. So at the state level, next slide, I'm jumping up to the state now. The state has a job creation tax credit. I spoke to this earlier. This is the matching piece, where you can get $1,000 or $1,500 per job if you're in a revitalization area. The research and development tax credit is one that's used by many of our life science and material science companies. They have two levels, a basic and a growth. So if you're spending up to $4.5 million of research and development, you can write off 3%. If you're spending over $4.5, the amount that's over $4.5 million, you get a 10% tax credit. And also, if any of you out there are doing this, or interested in this tax credit, there's a federal component. So several companies lately, we've been talking about this research and development tax credit quite a bit because it's time to file taxes. So we're making sure that our companies are getting both the state and the federal tax credit benefits. The last one on this slide by Maryland is the Employer Security Clearance Costs Tax Credit. And this has been very helpful for our cybersecurity companies, companies that are doing black box receivables with the federal government. And the state will give you a tax credit up to $200,000 per year. And they also have tax credits for if you're building skip space to help cover your first year of leasing. So this is a very nice opportunity if you're in the cybersecurity or black box receivable, you're doing that type of government contracting. Down below, you'll see that the state right now has 11 different tax credit programs. These handful that I've just laid out are some of the more popular ones and the ones we talk about day in and day out here in the county, but there are 11. If you're doing a vineyard in Maryland, you can get a tax credit. If you're doing anything that's ag-related in Maryland, there's probably a tax credit program for you. There are many others, and we can give you the website to find all those tax credit programs. Maryland, next slide, also has other funding programs. There's a Maryland Economic Adjustment Fund. This is really for the modernization of manufacturing operations, heavy equipment, permanent capital equipment that companies are updating and modernizing. We still see that and are working, they're still making loans out of that program. There is a fairly new military personnel and veteran-owned small business loan program. And this is nice. This is a loan program for members of the military and veterans that has zero interest. And it's specifically for the purpose of starting or growing a small business anywhere in the state. So this is also non-dilutive, free capital, very nice opportunity for those of you that qualify. And you'll see below at the end, there's 9 other loan and grant investment programs in the state. So you need to check them out and find out what you are eligible for, what you can qualify for, and then take advantage of these programs. The state also has some resources for seed capital for early stage technology development companies. So a very popular program that the state runs is called the Maryland Venture Fund. And they just made an investment into an energy company that's coming to the state of Maryland. They typically make investments of $100,000 to $500,000. And they typically put money into companies that are just prior to getting a round of institutional funds. Let's see, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about TEDCO and MIPS. TEDCO is a state agency. It's not state government, but it's funded by the state. They really specialize in getting the state's technology commercialized and out into the marketplace and seeding those companies. So again, this is seed investment capital. They put money in, they kind of divide themselves up into 3 different themes. They have programs if you're at the idea stage, programs if you're at the commercialization stage and startup stage, and then programs if you are at the business expansion stage. So they have a specific fund for, like, our stem cell companies. They have a specific fund for cybersecurity. They also have a Veterans Opportunity Fund. And they have a very general technology commercialization fund that can be used whether you're starting up or you're expanding. These are typically, these funds typically get put into the company in the form of a convertible note. And sometimes direct investment, but typically a convertible note. So this is also very nice for companies who are looking for funding. Lastly, I have a slide just with a couple of websites that can get you to all these resources in 2 stops. At the county level, we have the choosemontgomerymd.com, and at the state level, I would send you to business.maryland.gov. These are the websites that have the programs in detail. You can walk through the eligibility requirements, the qualifications, applications, contact information for the folks that are managing these programs. And I would also encourage you to meet and greet your local economic development person and someone like myself. And I know Scheer can make those introductions, and we can help you walk through these programs and figure out how to combine them, which ones to do first, which ones are right for your stage of company development, and so that we can put together a spectrum of resources for you throughout the life of the company to help make your business in Maryland successful. So with that, I've quickly gone through a lot of incentives and funding opportunities that can help reduce your real estate costs, help you be successful in Maryland. Does anybody have any questions that I can go back over more slowly and get into?
So Ruth, this is Dave. Let me thank you for that. You know, it's been a long time since I heard kind of a snapshot of all the programs in one place. And for me, and probably for you, it always begs the question, why don't we just have one program or 2 or 3? But there were many. I think I counted when I went on their website 20 different state programs if you didn't want to get very specific tax and finance. And 15 on the county side, and we really didn't touch too much on what the Small Business Administration, Department of Commerce, and in fact, the Department of Agriculture do with their rural lending program. But this is a really good summary. I think the takeaway for me is that you would be well served to connect with somebody that knows how to find answers. Somebody in the department, yourself, somebody at Scheer Partners certainly is going to be involved in many cases with the transaction from a real estate standpoint, or getting it, providing assistance in getting it financed. But let me ask you a question about the enterprise zones for a minute, because it seems to me that there's really a great benefit in that program, not just in the property and income tax benefits, but there's certain protocols that the county has lifted or waived, such as impact charges, impact taxes, system development charges. So it could be very cost effective to locate in one of the three enterprise zones in Gaithersburg or Wheaton or Silver Spring.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's particularly true if you're going to be, developing some property or building out some real estate, or you've got some significant fit out. I think you're exactly right. Those can amount to a significant financial benefit to the company and really reduce the overall cost of the project, and thus, that will provide a greater return at some point, down the road. Those can be very valuable, and some of them are also hub zones. Which, speaking of federal programs, you might be able to take advantage of a hub zone property as well.
What are the benefits of a hub zone?
The government contracting. So a hub zone it's a federal program that it's called. Hub zone stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zone. And if you have a company that is located in a hub zone and 2/3 of your employees live in any hub zone, they can be from even out of state, but they live in a hub zone, then your business qualifies for set-aside government contracts. So it's a way to really market yourself to the government, get the government's attention, help the government meet some of its procurement goals, and that can be very lucrative.
That's great. And so if a company were going to, let's say they currently employed 50 people and we're going to add, 25 jobs to their inventory, and they were a technology company that qualified for some of the programs, what types of assistance would the county consider, and how long does it take?
No, that's a great question. So when a company, oftentimes a company that's got some nice growth like that, they'll either come to us directly or they'll be introduced to us by maybe someone at one of the chambers of commerce or tech council or someone that's Scheer partners. And what we'll do is we will sit down with a company and we'll do a complete discussion about, where they are, what their needs are, and how we can fit our funding and financial programs to best to help the company maximize their opportunity to take advantage of these programs. So we'll start with a basic application, so we can get some numbers about job creation, average salaries, what your plans are for investment, and then we'll do a site visit as well. Come out and visit you and get to know how your business operates, and so we'll then take that back and we'll put together a package, do some analysis and economic impact analysis, and put together a package. And if the transaction is under $100,000, it usually takes us about 60 to 90 days from beginning to end to get a check in your hands. We do transactions that are larger than $100,000 on occasion. Those we need to go to county council to get some supplemental funding, so they can take a little bit longer. But we have gotten support from county council when we've had deals to put in front of them. So it can be fairly quick. We also like to keep in touch with those companies because there are programs that are available to a company as it grows, maybe as it expands. So we want to make sure that the company continues to take advantage of all the resources that our state and county government provide. And we are sometimes, we work really hard to get people also partnered up with their federal resources, such as the Hub Zone program. We do a lot of work with companies in the SBIR and STTR program to help companies get that capital. That's very important. And we work to help companies understand, learn, and get into the whole procurement business and understand the ins and outs of procurement at the federal level, the state level, and the county level. We do a lot of work along those lines as well, just to help people navigate those resources. So we're here to be a company's partner from right from the get-go and all the way through till a company is ultimately sold and someone has a wonderful exit, and then they get to do it all over again.
That's actually pretty fast. It seems to me it takes almost longer to buy a house. So if you're looking at financing a business, that's pretty quick. What happens, I know that you're investing public tax dollars in many cases, sometimes repayments. What happens if a company underperforms? Is there a requirement for repayment?
There is. So what we'll do is, not every company is going to meet its job creation and its goals. Not every company is going to be successful, and we know that. We recognize that when we are putting financial incentive programs out there, that there's a risk that they won't, that the company won't be successful. So here's what happened in those cases. Sometimes a company is incredibly successful, and the company is purchased, and we're sad to say, but sometimes they do leave the state or leave the county. In that case, we'll work with the company and we'll set up a repayment plan so that the company can repay the local taxpayer dollars that it's borrowed. And usually that has worked out very well for us. We haven't had too many companies leave the area, but the ones that have repaid those local tax dollars to us. There have been occasions when we've given a grant to a company, a technology company. We've given them a grant, and the technology just didn't pan out. That happens too. So depending on how much time has gone by, it may continue to stay a grant, and the debt is absolved, and it never becomes a liability of the company. If a company does well and they just don't hit their milestones of job creation, then we'll sit down and renegotiate terms of the grant so that it can remain a grant. It can be a loan that's repaid on a time frame that's comfortable and suits the company's current cash flow, and we'll prorate some sort of a solution that makes sense for both the county taxpayers and the company.
Okay, I understand. I remember from my days in government that the state has an arsenal of funding that sometimes is measured up around $80 million. Of course, all of it is not appropriated to spend in any one year, and I assume the county has substantial resources also, but not on that level. Are there any, not to ask you secrets, but are there any possible incentives out there that are pending or on the horizon that we could look for to put in the tool bag?
Absolutely. Yes, there is. There's a new state incentive that is currently being discussed in Annapolis. There's a House bill and a Senate bill, and they're fairly similar. So I think it's gonna fly right through the joint hearing. And what it is it's another tax credit or investment tax credit program, but this one's very broad. It's not so sector specific as in biotech or cyber or green. This one is for angel investments where investors have invested in some sort of technology company. So you could have, your mother invest in your new software company, and she would get either a credit on her Maryland taxes, or she would get an outright refund check from the state of Maryland. And now what they're debating is the amount. Is it going to be 50%, 30%? They're discussing that during this legislation. And that tax credit will apply also to, not only will it apply to direct equity investments, but it would also apply to the convertible debt investments that many professional angels and professional angel groups are making in technology companies. So I think it's going to go through. We'll see what the final terms, how they come out in the wash, and I think it's going to be a wonderful incentive to bring money into companies in Maryland and in Montgomery County. So watch for that with the angel investor tax credit.
We'll do that, certainly. We've got a couple of questions from the participants. One of them is, could you elaborate a little bit more on the new jobs tax credit? If you quantified that, I think the question is, generally we would use $2,000 $2.50 a square foot to estimate property taxes. So a 10,000 square foot occupant would have a $25,000 tax bill in this example. Does that mean that they could get 50% off of that if they took advantage of the tax credit?
They could get up to that amount, yes.
Okay. And is that funded by the county or jointly with the state?
Well, there's two programs. The county program is going to be applied. A county tax credit is going to be applied to property taxes, and the state component is going to be applied to sales taxes. The sales tax of the company, and they often then on top of that for the jobs piece of it, they'll give either a $1,000 credit per employee, or if you're in one of the enterprise zones or distressed areas, you get up to $1,500 per employee.
Okay, it all adds up, I suppose.
I think it does.
And several people were asking if you could share a couple of success stories.
Couple of success stories.
You might know. It doesn't have to be Marriott or anybody else.
I know one, Dave, that you and I both know. So we had a company in the county. I guess it's been probably eight or 9 years ago now. And the name of the company is Live Healthier.
Oh yes.
And yes. And so Live Healthier is a software company focusing on corporate wellness, and the CEO is a very dynamic entrepreneur by the name of Mary Mosslander. So Mary Mosslander she started out in one office by herself with us in our incubator program, which I haven't talked about today, but I can answer questions about that if if you're interested. So Mary was in one of our incubators developing this company, and the first, I'll tell you, her first business plan is not the business plan she's operating today. She had to do a pivot. So during the pivot, cash was tight and she needed some resources because we could see how well she was working. We believed in her. She was in our incubator program. She had plans to hire. She was in a space of software and health, a space that we want to encourage. We went ahead and gave Mary a loan. We gave her a loan from our loan fund, and we set the terms up so that it was very easy for her to repay us when she had cash flow going again. So we had very generous terms, which is where it's a little bit different from a bank. So Mary pivoted. She grew. She did quite well. Later on, we opened up a new incubator, and Mary took her crew down to the new incubator and expanded the space. Several years later, she graduated from the incubator, took office space in Bethesda, doubled her size and of employees, doubled her size in space, moved again. And at the end of this year, Mary sold her company to a very large corporation for a very nice exit. So that's a situation where Live Healthier used the county's incubator program. She used our funding incentives, and she's done quite well.
That's a great example, and Mary is a visionary with respect to what she has done and accomplished. I think she's still with the acquiring company also, which is a perk.
Yeah. They really like her. They hired and retained her to run her shop. So what she has now is she's continuing to do what she's been doing, and now she's got a bigger balance sheet, more resources, more corporate structure behind her to provide the fuel to ramp her business up even more.
That's great.
Yeah, she's done well.
Another question that we have is one that you may or may not be able to answer, because I know that you're extremely good at what you do, but you're not necessarily a tax accountant. But the question is, if I get a grant, is it counted as income to the company for tax purposes?
So Dave's right. I am not an accountant. But I can tell you I've been part of this conversation many times. And it seems to fall into two different categories, depending on your accountant. Some accountants will consider that income, and others will consider it a contingent liability, depending upon the term, and their decision depends upon the terms of the grant. And I think maybe even the amount of the grant, how significant it is to the company's overall financial position. So I think the answer to that is it depends. Check with your accountant.
That's always good advice. How many companies does the county Department of Economic Development assist with finance and tax programs in a year?
Oh, that's a good one.
I always ask those questions.
Yeah, altogether, I would say that in terms of funding programs and tax credits, I'm sure there are a couple hundred companies that we touch during a year, at least, between the tax credits, the grants, and our loan program. Now, we assist many more companies than that in terms of strategic introductions and providing support and assistance in getting identifying resources for people. But actual financial transactions in some form or another, it's got to be a couple hundred a year.
That's a good number. That's a really good number. Let me see. I don't see any other questions from the participants. If somebody wants to hit that chat button and ask one or two final questions, I'd be happy to try to get them in. In the meantime, I'd like to point out that we stand ready to help anybody with their real estate needs, as well as talk to the county, or help also to demystify some of the things that have been discussed today. Ruth is obviously the expert, and there are other colleagues that she works with that do a very good job of assisting. They are certainly not paid to review and delay. They're paid to help, and I think they do a really good job of it. They also are the bridge as a single point of entry to state resources, and can help make that introduction. And Ruth, I guess I found that it is frequently helpful if the county is working with a company. The state tends to pay better attention to it. What do you think?
I think so too, and I think that's because typically I think when the county is working with a company, we've made the decision that company has some there. So I think the state knows they've been vetted a little bit, and there's a project there that we can work on. There's a management team we can support. There's some substance to it, and I think when we bring a deal to the state, they already know we've looked at it and there's some substance. So I think it does get a lot of attention.
So that's terrific. While I have you, even though it's not the subject of the day, do you have any openings in the incubator program, which provides great office space and in some cases lab space for important startups and early stage companies?
We do, thank you. Our incubator program consists of 4 facilities in Silver Spring, Wheaton, Rockville Town Square, and Germantown. All of our facilities have some space. We always like to have a little bit of space, either for a current company to expand or for a great new company that's a good fit to come on in and join the portfolio. I think incubators are a wonderful fishbowl of resources for a company to be in. It's a lot, when a new company comes into one of the incubators, it's often a fire hose of resources that they're trying to deal with, and we can help sort them out and get easy access to those resources for those companies. And I think it's also a portfolio that the investment community looks at as well. They want to know who we're incubating, who's in the portfolio, who's got what technology. Again, they know these companies have been through some sort of a vetting process. They're in a very supported environment, and so the investment community too looks at the incubator portfolio. I love our county's incubator program. There are now over 30 incubators around the state of Maryland, so it's a very resource-rich ecosystem in which to grow a business. So I'm a fan. And yes, we have some space. Anybody at Scheer or myself, we can talk to you about incubators or make an introduction there if you'd like.
Okay. So we have a late-breaking question. I'm not sure it might be a little bit of a softball, but since the administration just changed in Annapolis, do you see any effect on economic development? First, from the business climate standpoint, and second, from the level of support to the state economic development agencies.
Oh, that's a hot topic.
It is. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. Well, I can just give you my take on it. I think the answer is yes. I think the new administration in Annapolis is very focused on business. It's come out and said, you know, Maryland is open for business. So I think there's a renewed interest. I think there's a renewed interest on simplifying and streamlining even some of these programs and agencies to make it easier to navigate. As Dave was suggesting earlier, there are a lot, and I think they may be looking at combining and streamlining and combining some things so that it's easier for the public to know where to go for resources. I think in terms of Montgomery County, it's going to be good for the county. Our department is very business oriented, and we really like it when our colleagues at the state are also just as business oriented. So we're excited about the new administration. I think even the politicians in Montgomery County have gotten the message that Marylanders, and that includes Montgomery County citizens, are interested in a robust, supportive business climate. So I think we'll see some good things.
That's a great answer for a lively question, and it's going to be debated for a number of years, and we'll see the results. But we're all looking forward to good things from Montgomery County and its Department of Economic Development. Ruth, this has been a terrific webinar. As a follow-up, I want to let everybody know that we will send an email with the full contact information of Ruth and the department and so forth. We're also going to have a copy of the PowerPoint that you so graciously put together on scheerpartners.com on our website, and we stand ready to assist in support of any company that would like to get a little assistance in the introduction and again, the demystification of some of the programs. But we want to thank everybody for participating, and unless there are other questions that have come in, and there are not, let's conclude by saying thanks to Ruth and all of you that took the time to join us.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so very much for your time and attention. I'd be happy to take any follow-on questions by email if you'd like. And thank you, Dave, for doing a wonderful job moderating.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.